You generally see two different kinds of people. They're the people that see a disaster and they get out of the way. And you have the people that see a disaster and they go towards it. They stand firm. And then the first thing they're doing when everyone else is safely over here, including their families, is they go out and assess, okay, how can we bring life back to normal?
Back in 2004, there were 4 storms back to back. And so that was a pivotal moment here in St. Johns County because we were very unprepared. We didn't have pre-positioned contracts. We didn't have the technology we have now.
Now we can actually dive into that, to our data. Matured enough, we've been doing it for so long. We have different ways to actually see the data, query the data, analyze the data.
So yeah, this gives you a pretty good idea of where you need to focus on the most post-storm and where we really should be directing our cleanup efforts.
So in 2019, we had a rather small but influential wildfire. It was a 2,000-acre fire called the Museum Fire. Happened directly outside of city limits on very steep slopes with watersheds that drained immediately into the city. So there's very little area.
So we cannot predict wildfire nor flooding, and so you just have to be ready, right? So setting up that technology gave us the readiness to prepare for any kind of natural disaster that may happen.
So Trimble Unity, that allowed us to have an asset management program that allowed us to identify areas that were bottlenecks as well as areas that could be overwhelmed in terms of catch basins, pipes, roadway sections, etc. So we were able to take things out of our GIS system, out of the geodatabases and out of our flood models, and then put that within our asset management system for areas that need to be cleaned either proactively or retroactively as the floods occurred.
When I think about that, I think about our stormwater maintenance crews. They're a lot the ones boots on the ground, and using this software, this program, they can easily organize and get lots of work orders done instead of getting lost in paperwork, getting lost in disorganization.
We had a pump go down during a rain event. We got about 5 or 6 inches within about 12 hours. And because we had the data before us, we were able to have the confidence to go ahead and flip that other pump and put that in line. We never missed a beat.
Zoom into your clarifier.
We never had a spill, which is a huge no-no.
A system that we can collect the data, we can take pictures, we can take GIS coordinates, and be able to provide you a real-time map of all the information that's in the field.
It just streamlines right into the system, and we can see a little dot on the map. We picked up a tree here, we picked up construction debris here, all at your fingertips. It's made reporting, operational statistics, everything in a moment's notice, which means I can make quicker decisions on what we need to do to recover.
So resilience means to me, especially during the flooding and fires, was just seeing everyone wake up every morning, lace up their boots, get out there, and just keep doing what needed to be done to resolve the issues.
So, do you think of the people here at Public Works as heroes?
Oh yeah, I do. Sorry. I feel like our guys always respond to those. Don't see much, but I think between what the crews are doing out and what we're providing and what we're assisting them is making a difference. We just do it. We just got to do it.
It's kind of hard to think that you're a hero because I'm just over here in this building working on computers, and sometimes I'm going out in the field helping out those field crews. But at the end of the day, I really did help my community out. And so, yeah, I guess I'm a hero.
Attendees, please join me in welcoming to the stage Thomas Fair.
Good morning. Good morning. It's incredible to see the work that you do to support your communities and save lives. Trimble Unity and ArcGIS provide the platform and the systems, but it's how you use these products that really makes the work happen. I really could not agree more that you are all heroes. Thank you for what you do. Esri and Trimble have a very strong and growing partnership. Trimble is a platinum partner of Esri. Together, we share a select group of preferred partners that are experts in ArcGIS and Trimble Unity. Together, all of us put you, the customer, at the center of what we do. And we are constantly looking at ways to leverage new technologies like AI to help enhance your workflows, deliver new capabilities, and to better enable your work. So thank you.
And now, please welcome to the stage, Lisa Ruggieri.
Good morning. Welcome to Innovate Day 2. So I have the opportunity to lead our professional and educational services for Trimble's owner and public sector. My team and I get to work with all of you, our customers and our partners, to onboard Trimble's products, drive adoption, and help you expand the use of those products. We're thrilled to have you here as we explore the power of connected technology and celebrate the unsung heroes who build and maintain our vital infrastructure of our world. From our roads and utilities to hospitals, education institutions, counties, cities, states, and federal agencies, your dedication forms the very foundation of our society. Let's chat about the 2 reflection questions yesterday that Adrian threw out. Here are some of the cool responses we received. I think, as you take a look at these reflection collection answers, and hopefully you've all checked out the wall, the one that stood out to me the most was, how do I get buy-in from seasoned employees who do not know how to use technology and who do not trust it? So if that was your question, I hope that we'll answer that question today. So please go check out the reflection collection wall outside the Expo Center. You can't miss it, it's the silver walls. And then you might also notice that when you came in, there were 2 questions on your seats today. The most important things still unsaid, and a crazy idea that just might work. So we want to thank you in advance for filling out those cards and sharing your insights. They're critically important to Trimble and your peers. But just remember to take the cards with you and then to place them on the reflection collection wall outside of the Expo Center. So today, we will dive into how Trimble's Asset Lifecycle Management Suite helps you keep doing your awesome work and build a better future. Thanks for coming, learning, and sharing your thoughts. We really appreciate you. Just a reminder, do not miss the Customer Appreciation Social. It's a sports-themed event, so come and rock your favorite gear. I might even wear my Dallas Cowboys jersey, right? It's America's team, right? Yay, Dallas, go. They were a great team in the 90s. As Thomas mentioned, you're the unsung heroes who just really keep our vital infrastructure going strong. Innovate is all about showing how important asset lifecycle management is and how Trimble software plays a vital role. But what better way to see this in action than hearing from our customers today? Today's panel will share their experiences with Trimble solutions. It's time to bring out our 4 fantastic panelists. Thanks for being here. Okay, now it's time to connect with our panel. So we're going to start with introductions, and as the panel introduces themselves, if you can just maybe take a moment to reflect how you can relate to the roles that they're in or that you may be in one day as they share their insights with us today. Jake, you want to kick us off?
Hi, my name is Jake Tittle, and I'm the Chief Information Officer of MetroConnex. And MetroConnex is a wastewater collections utility in Greenville, South Carolina. Currently, we're a CityWorks, AMS, and PLL user, and we're a fairly large organization, and we've grown over the last few years. We have roughly 1,500 miles of gravity sewer, and we serve about 100,000 households.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Tom Zimmerman. I work for the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I'm the Asset Infrastructure Investment Manager for the department. Spent a little over 40 years now working with MnDOT, starting in maintenance operations, and so my strong suit is on the maintenance operations side. Back in about 2015, we decided that we wanted to become an asset management organization in Minnesota. So we incorporated the Agile Asset software, and we've added numerous different modules and so forth. And my role in that whole game is that managing the development and the deployment of the Agile Asset software.
Good morning. I'm Rick Niederstadt. I'm the Capital Improvement Program Manager for the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. Oh, hey, all right. My team's in the crowd. Awesome. We serve about 1.1 million people in and around the city of Milwaukee. We have been Trimble Unity Construct users for about 10 years now. We manage about $200 million a year in capital project spending through that system every year, and I think we have about 800 plus users in our environment, most of which are external vendors.
Good morning. My name is Gary Younger. I'm Senior Director for Program Controls, Analytics, and IT Solutions at Northeastern University. Under my management, I have project controls, I have the BIM team, the GIS team, the analytics team, all those areas there, including campus management. We've been using TUC for about 11 years, and we're managing a $2.2 billion program over multiple years.
Thank you. Thanks. So we'll get started with some questions here. So I think, one thing that we could, want to learn from you and the audience would like to hear is, how is your organization embracing asset lifecycle management? Not only within your industry, but how mature is your organization in applying kind of a comprehensive end-to-end ALM philosophy? And then what benefits do you expect to see, your organization gain from implementing Trimble solutions in that context? And so I think Jake, let's start with you.
So at MetroConnex, we've really strived in the past few years to manage our assets at the entire life cycle. We adopted AMS back in 2017, and we started doing a really interesting thing where we said, we want to get our assets in our GIS and other systems, not after something's constructed, but during the planning process, and that was huge for us. So doing that, and when we put AMS in, we started managing our assets through work orders, inspections, and service requests. And we started to grow that data against our GIS assets, right? Creating that work order history. Then we decided to start moving into PLL, right? So we started doing permitting and doing subdivision developments and further building that data. So what's really great about that is it's created all this information that's attached to our GIS, and we've been using it to start building our risk models, and we're starting to let it guide us in how we do rehab and replacement projects and when we need to abandon things, that sort of thing. So it's really helped us quite a bit, I would think.
Thank you. Yeah, and Rick, I think, we'd like to hear from you also, what is that approach, the philosophy, and really hope to gain at MMSD?
Sure. So asset lifecycle management, right? I guess it's just 3 words, but there's a lot to that, right? All of you in the room, you're working in that space, and there's a lot of stakeholders involved. So we take both a top-down and a bottom-up approach. Our executives, our managers have their wants and their needs, and our boots-on-the-ground staff have their wants and their needs, and everybody needs information. I think we're very mature in some aspects. So Trimble Unity Construct, I think we're fairly mature in that regard. We're not as mature with our CMMS system. We have a public-private partnership with Veolia Water Milwaukee. They operate and maintain our 2 wastewater treatment plants and our conveyance system. And their contract is up in March of 2028, so we put a RFP out on the street here at the end of September for our next contract, and within that is within that agreement we'll be implementing a governance structure to together implement a new CMMS system so we can better share that information with both the operator and us as the owner, so we all have the information we need about our assets. Right? Ultimately, our goal is that we are able to quickly access accurate information across all departments, whether that be internally for MMSD or externally with our operating contractor partner. Right? We're ultimately trying to get the right information to the right people at the right time, and that takes maturity in systems to do so.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I appreciate that when you think about from a municipality to a utility and everything in between, it really is about having a philosophy, defining what that looks like, and then working and making sure, and Rick, you said it best, top, down and bottoms up. It's so important to define that so that that journey gets a little easier, right? So I think something else that we would definitely like to hear and understand is, can you share some of the best practices that you've implemented, like in your role specifically, not necessarily as an organization, to effectively embrace asset lifecycle management within your organization? And Tom, I'll ask you, can you, kind of respond to that? What have you done?
Sure. So when I think of best practices, and again, my background is really on the operations side, from the field side. We've got best practices on how you take care of a guardrail, how you take care of a roadway, and so forth. And when I think about what we're doing nowadays with asset management and so forth, the implementation of new processes and procedures for getting your data and keeping your data integrity up. Things such as capturing the information with LiDAR collects, going out and setting up the inspections in a particular way, and getting that information consistently from one part of the organization to the other is so important. So right now we're inspecting more because of technology that's evolved over the years. We're doing more inspections on more asset classes than ever before. We've been able to get better information more rapidly, and keeping our inventories and those inspections, and coming up with best practices and the replacement cycles for some of the assets based on those things. So that is a huge thing for us in the department, is keeping that information up and going. We've also started to incorporate regular review of that data that's being captured. It's one thing to go out and capture the data and populate fields and populate inventories, but if you're never taking a look at it and reviewing it and for its accuracy and integrity, it doesn't do you much good. Lastly, I think in my mind, one of the biggest best practices that we've done in this whole realm of asset lifecycle management is meeting with our stakeholders regularly, talking about what's going on, the technologies that are out there, the things that we're starting to incorporate, so everybody understands how their information ties to everybody else's, and keeping it all bringing it all together, and basically going down one direction.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tom. And it's so important, right? Stakeholders, data integrity, having those conversations and pulling in stakeholders to be sure that everything's aligned. And I just appreciate the approach. Obviously, your operations background tends to lend a lot to a pragmatic approach there. So Gary, share, what have you done in your role, from a best practices approach?
Yeah, so just to add on to what Tom is saying, when we first started to implement tech, there was a mindset that projects would get entered during the construction phase. And I really thought that was way too late. I thought it really defeated the purpose of trying to manage the overall life cycle of a project. So we really had to shift that mindset to let everyone know that these projects go in at inception, and they stay in there, through the life of the project and even turn over to the trades and services. So we really had to get that in place. My goal was to make sure that all projects were in the system, that all projects went through an evaluation process within TUC, and that the project delivery process was identified through TUC also. One thing that we didn't want to forget was trades and services, because sometimes those groups get overlooked, and we wanted them to be engaged early on with documentation, understanding what's going into the building, so that they could play a real part in this. And when we turned information over to them, they were well aware of what they were receiving. Some of the best practices that we put in place is, once again, we wanted to make sure all projects were in TUC. There was an interesting side note where that we had to do an emergency project one time, and the project didn't get put into TUC in a timely manner, and there was an audit finding that came back to us and said that even though this was an emergency project, we understand the severity of it, but that project should have been put into the system within a few days after things got wrapped up. So that was the university's kind of reinforcement of all projects, capital projects, would run through this system. Some of the other things is we modified contract language, like I think many people do, and that was really to say, these are the rules of the game. These are the expectations for you as a firm. And then we basically, provided them with all the licenses and things that they needed. We also had a robust closeout process. So not only were we reconciling costs on a project, but we were also collecting the documentation, the asset information, the 3D models, all those things that we were going to need downstream. And then we integrated with our financial accounting system, really to optimize those workflows that we were building in TUC to make sure that payment requests were going in fast, change orders were getting approved quickly in the system, and that was really beneficial. And lastly, I would say is that we've been on TUC for about 11 years now, and we still have a robust training program. We started on day one training everyone, and it really hasn't stopped since, and we don't see it stopping. There's just a changeover of staff. There are new workflows that are being built, so it's just an ongoing effort for us, and it has definitely paid dividends.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. So it really is a mindset, right? That, as you adopt technology and you implement that technology and then you create an ecosystem, that is just the beginning. It's fluid. It's continuous. Innovation, while it's a noun, it's a verb, because you have to continue to invest in that to be able to see the returns and to continue to mature in your use of that technology to benefit your programs. So my next is really stems from, we talked about best practices and what you've done individually and, of course, the philosophies of your organizations. But what are some of the roadblocks that you've encountered with the Trimble solutions you currently use, as well as the challenges your businesses face in implementing a comprehensive end-to-end lifecycle management vision? And Rick, I'm going to start with you on this one.
All right.
Yeah, we'd like to hear from you.
Well, I think some of the biggest challenge we face, right, it's not necessarily a Trimble solution challenge. It's a challenge that we face basically with any software. It's change, right? Change is complicated in any organization. We're all here because we all use Trimble software. We all know the software can do what it needs to do. It's really the people, not the software, right? Getting people on board and getting people to have trust and confidence in the systems that you're using and the business processes that you're putting into the system, that's really important. Within an organization, as you're integrated with different systems like ERP systems and CMMS systems and GIS systems and all those other things, right? The functionality that exists within construct and maintain and agile assets, well, sometimes it overlaps with some of those other systems, and people can, have a bit of a turf war issue, right? And I think when we find that, we treat those groups and those people carefully, right? We want to show them that the system works well for what it's doing. And we ultimately want them to be able to see for themselves that there can be real efficiency gains within the organization if we change how we're doing things, right? It's not forcing people to do things the way we want to do them. It's letting them see that for themselves, right? That's been really helpful for our organization. And that took a while to learn, quite frankly. Ultimately, these systems can do a ton, and you can't do it all at once, right? Don't boil the ocean. Start small, implement what you need, what's critical to your organization, and then, show wins, build trust and confidence across those other groups, and you'll be shocked at how much more you can then do in the system, right? Prove the value first, and then scale it up to do way more. I think we do 10 times more in Trimble Unity Construct now than we did when we first went live.
Thank you, Rick. Gary, so what are some of the roadblocks that you guys encountered also at NEU?
Yeah, so one of the things is when we first rolled out the system, we didn't make false promises to the project management staff. We didn't come to them and say, hey, this is going to do everything for you, your life's going to be grand, everything's going to be easy. We couldn't do that because the reality was we didn't have good project delivery practices in place. There were agreements with handshakes and things like that. I'll get you the paperwork later, all that type of stuff. So we really needed to change that. And to make that change, we had to let people know that you may have to do a little bit more because we're not starting from a solid base. And we need to be able to protect, the university's interest. And, we need to be much more efficient in the way that we do that. We also got some vendor pushback, like I think a lot of organizations do. I think they were really testing us to see if this new business method was going to stand. And once they realized that, yeah, there definitely is a new way of doing business, these firms then did kind of really get engaged. There were pushbacks on kind of the standard things. I have to put my pay application in the system now. I have to put my invoice, RFI submittals, all those kind of like pain points that usually get brought up. But there was acceptance, once we got there. It took a little while. I'd say it took probably about 6 to 9 months. But when we got there, we were good. The other thing too was that what we were going through, one of the bright spots is that it started to push our finance group to start to look at technology for how we manage the capital program as a university. So we had everything down pretty well within Tuck, but there are other things that the Treasury Department does and finance does that were still kind of manual and a little outdated. So the good thing is it was raising the bar around the university and it was challenging others. And I think that was a really good thing. It kind of got a push going to really look at technology.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. And Jake, I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer the same question, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the fine points to all of this great information.
Okay. Well, change is difficult. So that's what we found with technology and process changes in our growth. Metro Connects, over the last few years, we've doubled our employees and doubled our mileage out in our system. So when we did that, we also increased the number of permits sold, the number of developments that were coming down our way, and that can do a lot to some of your staff. So what we found was it was extremely important to have a training plan in place, but not only that, but also to make your technical staff as available as possible to those folks, because we have multiple systems out there, right, in addition to CityWorks. Everybody's got an iPad out in the field, laptop, and everybody's got their challenges, but if you make that time to be available, that's what we found made us successful.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. And it's perspectives also, right? So you're hearing from a CIO and then also these business leaders, and it's so critically important, as you guys pointed out, the ownership within your own organizations change to help prepare your users, not only looking at your own business practices, but that's really truly how you get the value out of technology, right? An asset lifecycle management system. So in the context of digital transformation, how is your organization leveraging data and artificial intelligence to drive innovation and enhance decision making? And then not only what are some of those philosophies, but what challenges have you encountered in managing and securing this data and AI technologies throughout the transformation process, right? AI. So Gary, what's happening at NEU?
Yeah, so one of the things is, for this transformation, we had to work to try to get data sets as clean as possible. And we really found that, with the university expanding kind of globally and other sites within the US, these integrated data sets were really valuable because they helped really support decision making on kind of where were the next places to go, how are these places performing, all of that good stuff. You know, we took Tuck as a cornerstone of creating a data strategy, and what we did is we looked at all the applications that we had within the organization, and we tried to identify the duplicate efforts, the touch points between applications, and really try to broaden you know, the way that we use data. I had a vision that I wanted to be able to take all of the building models, GIS data sets, capital projects, energy, space information, all those things that we use to manage the business, and have those be available in one place. And we were able to accomplish this with a product called Esri Sites. So now we have the ability to go into one of those maps and be able to click on a building, and when you click on the building, you can see all the capital projects that are going on in that building. You can see all the energy consumption that's taking place in that building, space utilization, the assets, and you have access to the actual 3D model to be able to navigate through that building. So that was kind of one way to start to bring all of this together. On the AI side, our leadership is really pushing us to bring AI into the business. They're very, you know, supportive about it. They ask us continually, what are you doing to, you know, bring it in? We are piloting some things, and we're also looking for what I call sensible opportunities. As everyone knows, you know, AI is moving fast. There's a lot of cool things that it does, but what are the business-related, you know, aspects to AI? So we're trying to figure that out. And one thing that we're also doing is we're just putting together an AI committee, and their goal is really going to be to kind of look at potential uses, but also start to talk about what are our guidelines and our standards for how we use data. The university has this data policy where they classify data as like a 1 through 4, and some things that are like a 4 level can't be easily shared. Things that are a 1 level can be shared. So trying to figure out how all of this ties together.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, so that was a master class. AI committee, right? You can't just say, oh, AI, we're just going to adopt AI. That's so broad, and it can be intimidating. But just the best practice of just forming an AI committee and then sitting down with stakeholders to define how you want to adopt and bring that in that's perfect. Okay, so Rick, I'd love to hear your perspective as well on data and AI and what you guys are doing in MMSD.
Yeah, thanks. I think the simple answer to your question is very carefully and very strategically. You know, you just heard Gary say they're doing a lot of great stuff and a lot of cool stuff, and we want to do a lot of that same stuff. Some of it we're starting to do. We actually recently completed a digital transformation framework for our organization where we looked at our maturity level across the spectrum of that data universe to see, okay, where are we at, right? What are our problems? What can we use AI and machine learning and other things for? What problems do we have that we can leverage those tools to solve, right? And then we've also looked to see what do we have to do foundationally as an organization to be in a position to effectively use AI or machine learning or some of that newer technology to solve our problems. And our digital transformation roadmap, right? It's a journey. It's not a project, right? I suppose it did have a start point, but it is definitely not ever going to have an end point, right? I was at Dimensions, I think it was 4 years ago in Las Vegas, and Steve Wozniak from Apple was on the main stage. And I don't think this is his original quote, but he said, the pace of technology evolution has never been this fast, and it's never going to be this slow again. Right? He said that 4 years ago. I think it's true today. It's going to be true 4 years from now. But ultimately, what we're getting at here is there's data everywhere, and that data is knowledge, and knowledge is power. And if you can expose that data and leverage it to make informed decisions within your information, right? I mean, that's where you become best in class. That's where you're making effective, informed decisions. We talk about AI, and we can do a lot with powerful reporting, but just based on what I've seen here, I can't wait to see AI in Trimble Unity Constructs, because we won't have to make reports to answer questions. We'll just ask the question, right? But we have to have good data to be able to do that, right? And we're trying to make sure that we're integrating systems together. We're connecting as many systems together as we can so that with whatever group you're in within the organization, you have the system that you like to work in, and you can access all of the information critical to your role in that system, right? Part of your question was security related. We have 2 large water reclamation facilities, and those SCADA systems and the control networks, those have to be isolated from the outside world, right? We can't have any bad actors getting in there. So, security is a real challenge when we talk about how do we leverage that information and that data to make better decisions.
Yeah, thank you, Rick and Gary. Common data, environment, CDEs are so important, and Trimble Connect can provide that as a resource as well. And it is about being able to query and source that data so that you can be informed, but you've got to ask the right questions once that data is in a common environment. So what I would love to hear from each of you, because this is really important, I think, for the audience to understand. We heard a lot about all the technology yesterday, our connected suite, Unity suite, but what I would love to know from each of you is what advice would you give the other organizations regarding the adoption of asset lifecycle management, like the technology strategy? And I'm going to start with you, Rick, and then we'll go to each of you.
Yeah, I'm sure out in the audience there are people in various stages of using and implementing these solutions, right? From people that maybe haven't gone live yet to those that have been using it for 15, 20 years. And I think organizations experience varying levels of success with their implementations and with the use of their system thereafter. I think key to moving towards the appropriate end of that spectrum and being very successful is ownership and engagement. They're critical, right? We really have to engage other people within our organization because they have different perspectives and they have different needs. And the tools that we're here talking about, Trimble Unity Construct and Maintain and Agile Assets and quite frankly any other system out there, they're powerful. But you have to have that ownership and leadership to get the value out of the systems, right? I would say go live as a starting line, right? What you do after go live will be much more impactful to the organization, than stopping once you're implemented, right? We strive and we focus on continuous improvement because our organizations aren't static, right? Our systems need to change with our organizations, and we make changes all the time.
Yeah, no, thank you, Rick. And Tom, your years of, at MMSD and beyond, your career, please share your insights,
So from my perspective of this, what you need to do is get your organization excited about asset lifecycle management. Be positive when you're talking about it and getting out there and interacting with, from the people who are doing the data capturing to the people who are doing the analytics to the planners, the designers, all of that stuff. You got to get them excited. Meet with them regularly and so forth to tell them about what you're doing. And if you come across as being excited about it, that becomes others will get excited along with you. The other thing you need that we do is you need to provide them the necessary tools that they need to do what you want them to do. You need to give them the technology to capture the data that they're doing, to record the information in a way that is going, and they need to understand and see the data that they're capturing is doing something where it's important. Displaying that back to the front end, to the front users, all the way up to the managers to say, the piece of information that I'm gathering, the work that I'm doing here, this inspection that I'm doing, it means something, and it goes all the way up to the planning and the replacement and all of that stuff when it comes to looking at your total life cycle cost of your assets. So again, it's infectious. If you're excited about it and you get your people excited about it and you get your managers excited, but pretty soon it becomes the organization starts looking at asset management as this is what we want to be, this is what we want to do, and this is the path we want to go down.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. Thank you, Tom. Jake, what advice would you give?
I've got 2 points. Adopt an incremental mindset. So we feel that you're not going to do it all at once, right? So You're going to take on smaller projects and then understand that project and then build something bigger after that. So in our case, it was PLL, right? We did connection permits, and that was a simpler process for us. And then we said, hey, we're going to do a larger project, like development projects, a much more complex workflow, right? So as long as we have that incremental mindset, we can say, hey, we're going to start small and we're going to build out from there. So I would suggest do that in a lot of cases. The second thing would be to underline what Rick was saying about continuous improvement. Nothing's ever really done, nothing's ever perfect when you first start out, and you're always going to improve it. We see processes evolve over time, you know, as things change, and it's just good to be in that mindset, right, that we're just always going to look for that improvement. And that's my 2 points.
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
Gary.
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, as an organization, we're seeing a lot of value in kind of connecting a lot of these data sets. It's kind of helping us see what's been accomplished, what we're currently doing, and really provide some insight into the future of like where we're going. So it really provides a lot of value. You know, I would encourage an organization to develop some data strategy. And what I mean by that, it's not some extensive thing, but even starting off with 2 data sets to identify exactly what are the touch points between these applications, what's the value of data that I can pull out of this, and then that probably starts to grow into 3 or 4 applications, and it kind of creates that roadmap in strategy. I would say one of the bright spots of the connected data is it starts to identify, you know, the possibilities with the data, of what I can do with this. I know within our own team, as we've put stuff together, it's raised questions of things that you didn't realize that you could get before. And it starts to kind of get, you know, the creative ideas going of what would be valuable to not only leadership, but trade staff, project management staff. And I think the team finds that rewarding.
Thank you, Gary. And so, you know, your insights are fantastic. Thank you for the advice that you provided. Sounds very much like a construction project, right? You got to have a plan, you got to have a design before you go into building. And it's great insight, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. So thank you, Rick and Tom, Gary, in sharing your invaluable insights. Your contributions have truly illuminated the comprehensive journey of asset lifecycle management and showcased the power of data-driven strategies in transforming the infrastructure landscape. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us and commitment to innovation with Trimble Solutions. So thank you.